Thank you for that wonderful film. I think I don't want to sound like, Hamare Zamane Mein types or our generation, but we grew up on single screen cinemas. And there was such a, that was our cinema world, right? And just to share that, one of your characters says that there was this women's balcony, and it was the first time in India. I have to correct you, that's not true, because in Hyderabad, there was a balcony reserved only for women, and it used to be called Zanana, and there would be curtains. So only when
Right.
the film started, the curtains would open.
Yeah,
And
that
then,
I've heard.
and
So
after
which year
that, it
are you
would
talking
close.
about, Deepak?
It was near Paradise in Hyderabad. But anyway, that's just an aside. And what was wonderful is that they were very cheap tickets. 12 anna, it was 12 annas was the ticket,
Of course.
and it was a wonderful experience. I mean, just to sit in the Zanana and watch a film, though you never knew because always there would be women who would come with huge tiffin carriers, babies. It was like a 4 hour, 3.5 hour picnic. So just to share that, I think the film was wonderful because at least for me, it brought back all those memories of, cinephilia and single screen delight, watching films like that. But to get to you now, maybe just share how did you come to this idea, this project, and how did it start for you?
It started in a sort of cliched way because I have a friend who's an architecture historian, Mary Woods, with whom I did a lot of the research, and she and I are co-producers in the film. And we had, I mean, she was very interested in single screens and Art Deco and architecture and stuff like that. So we just started randomly, one of those things where you were just researching and you had no idea where it was going to go, if it was going to go at all, except that there was this sense of fragility that some of these theaters you wouldn't get a chance to film, or people that you could talk to who you may not get a chance to speak to later. So, and things that were changing. So, for instance, so we started in South Bombay actually with Liberty and with Capitol, and of course visiting a lot more theaters, Eros, Regal, I mean New Empire, lots of things, and it was just that sense of that this is time sensitive, so one should document it. That's actually how we began. And uh, and but as the body of it started growing, and as we started going from theaters in South Bombay to more central Bombay, and actually where we finally saw theaters that were running houseful on Bhojpuri cinemas, and then stuff like that, you started thinking more about what does this mean, like what does it mean for certain theaters to be running empty, certain theaters to be managing to survive, and actually started thinking about the relationship between the audience and the theaters. And I think that's when it actually became an idea for a film. So earlier it was really just documentation and research, and she was going to write about it. And I was like, let's film it, we'll see what happens as we go along. Let's just do some nice interviews. And, we'll think along the way. And in fact, this film has been a very long time in the making. I think it's 10 years by the time it got done, because the money was coming in small little tranches. So we would do a little bit and then we'd take a break, get on with life, come back, go back to this kind of thing. So our thinking also got breaks, and then we were able to, because I was like, look, I am more interested in what is that relationship between audiences and how do we experience it, because we often talk of theaters from the point of view of being an audience member, right? And that is where the excitement is. It's not always about, I mean, the academic part or the aesthetic part about the theater, etc., is part of it, but a lot more is about what you felt like inside. And as we started talking to different audiences, we were getting different textures of stories, and for me then that started evolving into a film.
No, definitely. I think the film, the pleasure principle of cinema and watching uh, in a communal space with people, I think that came out brilliantly, I thought, in
Thank
it.
you.
And also, I was very impressed with all the historical archive footage. And, you have, for example, those photographs of British troops.
Yeah.
And so much of your archive footage. So Could you share a little bit? I don't know, are people interested in that? Like, for example, where you, what was that search like and locating this material? I
Was
think
so
it's,
exciting. It was so
yeah.
exciting, you know, because
Mm,
and for me actually sometimes I feel like, you know, there is the thing of actually going to theaters and getting them to look through their pamphlets and their brochures and their
mm,
old photographs and pulling them out, and that's one kind of thrill. And then the other one is to actually go to someone like Javeed's house and get them to start talking about each other and their equations through that, because that's their
mm,
family archive, you
right.
know.
Mm,
And in as much as Nazir's is about, you know, getting the land and the land you know, and the land inauguration ceremony and the you know, the curtain raising and all of that stuff of Liberty Theatre. But actually, the troops, I actually, it's lovely that you pointed out, because I found them in some defense archive actually
wow.
online,
Mm,
and wrote to someone who is actually in England and wrote to the
mm,
family saying, "Look, I've traced these pictures, and can I possibly use them?" So, I mean, one I think was from Alamy, but the rest of them are actually somebody's archive who was posted in Nasik and had posted it online. And I connected with a family member and actually got it. So, you know,
mm,
because in a way, the research is all over the place because you're in different cities, you're in different time zones. You know, it's like there's no you are actually you're looking in many many directions at the same time. So, but sometimes you hit upon something like that that's so exciting, because otherwise, how do you bring alive that idea that, you know, this is Second World War? So, you know, you're talking
mm,
about a very, very different kind of time. So, and then there is, of course, you're talking about Delhi around partition and around independence, and, you know, somebody like my aunt doing her recollection of the fact that school children were celebrating the formation of a new country by being taken to the movies,
mm.
you know. So it
That's
was,
great. Yeah.
yeah. So
That's the historian in you. That's great. I just wanted to point out for Bangalore audiences, if you remember Plaza Cinema, and do you remember that there was the cinema and then there was a wooden dance hall adjacent to the cinema. And though the dance hall sadly was no more in use, but there used to be dances and there and the cinema together. So, I mean, so this idea of building cinemas for British people, I mean, I think because it was Bangalore, that was the cantonment part of our city. So I remember that clearly.
but you know, that's true
Yeah.
in Mayfair. You know, there's so much history that you can't bring into a film.
Hmm.
But like Mayfair Theatre, where I'm talking about the, you know, this the thing of Santa Claus and being able to eat in the dark, whatever someone passes you, there's no fear of, you know,
Hmm.
you being poisoned and, you know, X Y Z when you were growing up in the 70s. It actually started out as a dance hall
Hmm.
also, because that whole idea that, and you know, there were dancers besides the performances. There it was actually partly, it was, so it was the glam center, you know, it was like the red carpet zone
Right.
where
People
everybody,
dressed up to go to films.
of
You
course,
dressed up. You just didn't walk into it's a special
video
thing.
shoppers like we do now.
Yeah. Or you watch on your laptop. And it's just so sad. Yeah, so that was one thing. Then, I was also thinking that, you bring that out a little bit in the film, but when we're talking about audiences and their particular attachment to certain theaters, people
Yeah,
have an attachment to certain theaters.
yeah,
And, and in that, you have also, um, once a show is over and the audience comes out, and there's always this chat, between people who are waiting to go in and the ones who are coming out, and there are these
yeah.
things exchanged, these conversations. Ke picture, how was it, and what did you think, and that back and forthy thing. And that's another thing I remember, is that it's not just that you see a film, but there's all this around it as well. Your yeah, how you've observed it. There's
So, you know,
also,
one of the ways I
yeah.
tried to bring that in, and I don't know whether it came across,
Hmm.
but for me, I did something that I don't normally do, which is that there is some of my characters, you know, you meet them, you get to know a little backstory, you hear their stories in particular, etc. And some of them are just like voice characters, you know, they're just voices. And for me, that was the reflection of how do you, because it's like how you hear somebody's comment in a theater,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
walking down the stairs. So I wanted to capture that. So I have a ridiculous number of 17 characters in the
Yeah.
film. But I was like, that's what the theater is like. You
Yes.
don't know everybody. You
No.
don't get to know everybody. So it seems unreal to make a
Mm.
film where
Mm.
I get to know every character who's talking about theaters,
Yeah.
because a lot of it is you hear it when you're in the parking lot, when you're walking in, when you go to the loo to pee.
Mm-hmm.
So that sense of fragments of memories, uh, or fragments of commentary on theaters and the experiences. I thought one way to capture that would be to bring in characters who just come and go, who you never know anything more about, but you hear something that maybe stays with you.
I think it worked. I think that worked very well. We got that feeling for sure. The other thing is also like, you know, again, I want to, because we are here in Bangalore and there are people here also, that, the tragedy of losing single screen theaters. I think that also is very poignant, that that's gone. I mean, Plaza is gone, Rex has become a mall. I mean, on Kempegowda Road, we had 86 cinemas on one road, you
Wow.
can imagine. And, and the day when there used to be first day, first show, the hoardings, and of course, South India, the size of the hoardings, the size of the posters, it was, the pujas that would be done, a new Rajkumar film, like the excitement of all of that, no? It was almost like a festival
Yeah.
kind of feeling, and definitely Kempegowda Road had that. You can imagine that. And each theater was also architecturally,
Yeah.
which you've shown very beautifully actually in the film. I like that a lot. Like they were like palaces. I mean, they
Yeah.
were not ordinary places. They were like palaces, and they were built like that, right? So, and what is beautiful, like in Liberty and all that, is that they are. It's perfect Art Deco, and they've kept it like that.
It's exquisite.
Beautiful, it's just so
Exquisite.
beautiful, the
Yeah.
architecture. But and the other thing I wanted to talk about, which some of us may share, I don't know, is this thing of seeing a film more than once.
Mm.
You get addicted, and you don't maybe not see the whole film, but there's certain parts you want to see again and again. And for example, DDLJ that ran for how many years? In
Some
how
32
many
years or
years? Huh?
something. Yeah.
32 years or something it was running. So even that experience that you go and yeah. So is there anything? I don't want to ask you questions. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I mean, I'm just. Or do people want to ask something?
Yeah, I
Please
think
go
let's
ahead.
wait for if someone has a
At the back.
question or a
1 sec.
comment.
Right at the back.
Hello. Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. That was gorgeous. Something which it's this more of an aesthetic question than anything else. Something I couldn't help noticing while watching the film, or rather listening to the film, was that it had like a very lovely linguistic texture to it, in that like everybody who was speaking, almost everybody had their own distinct way of speaking. Like some people were speaking like pretty fluent English. Some of them, their English had to be like subtitled and like altered a bit so that, to make it fully comprehensible. Some of them were speaking Hindi, some were speaking like very strongly accent Hindi, and I thought that was really lovely. So like, did that kind of social linguistic diversity, I guess, did that just come out by like, did it come out organically, or was it like a product of like conscious design?
I think no, it was not by conscious design, but I think it's very challenging to make a film on some ubiquitous subjects. Like schools, or like every screening I have at least two people complaining to me saying, "But you didn't do my city." Calcutta has the
I
best
wanted
history.
to say that.
Hyderabad has the best history. Everybody. So I was really struggling with what is that combination of cities that also practically can do, right? And because we were doing this thing of looking at how cinema follows people. So, if the troops are coming to India, English films follow, right? If the if working class people are coming from Eastern UP and Bihar into Bombay, into a metropolitan like Bombay, therefore then Bhojpuri cinemas follow and become a thing. And then I started looking at where is Hindi cinema, what happens when it travels to the south, for instance. Basically I was looking at a non-Hindi speaking language center, and I landed in this Calicut story. Okay, so because it has a long history of showing Hindi films. Some of the archival pictures you'll see are like Mughal Azam, etc., and Sahab Bibi or Ghulam and stuff like that. So because I think of that geographical diversity itself, you got a certain kind of linguistic spread, I would say, you know, and including someone like Vinod who starts off saying that, people say I don't have much of an accent. I have a neutral accent. But he says a neutral accent like a good Malayali almost. So I think it's something that happens when you um, have a certain kind of range or whatever, then people bring their own kind of diversity, linguistic, experiential, lived, whatever, into the film. And then it gets enriched in that way.
Hello, Vani. Maya here. Very wonderful.
Oh,
Very
hi.
hi. Just like you talked about people from Gorakhpur going to Bombay, and so then the Bhojpuri film follows. I've held a question in my mind for 65 years now, I think. There would be the 10 a.m. In my child's mind, it was a sexy film.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was a Malayalam film. Usually came at 10 a.m. to Rivoli Cinema in Delhi. And very clearly, I know that my mother will not take me to see that film. And I used to wonder, and I wondered for years, why is this Her Nights, His Dreams, Avalude Ratrigal, why is it happening at 10 a.m. in the morning? Now, so this is a very, very pertinent audience screening question. Have you found an answer to this? Because it happened Sunday after Sunday. And I wanted to get in there, and there was no chance in hell of getting in there.
Well, I share that both that curiosity, fear, trauma, anticipation, everything with you, because I tried getting male friends to go with, and everyone's like, fuck off, sorry, you can't do this. I mean, we're not going there. But honestly, I didn't fathom that myself, because I think it was meant to be like, I don't know how 10 o'clock in the morning is a private time for men to actually be out. But because for me, contrarily, 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever was our children's film time on a Sunday in Lucknow, and later on television. Once Doordarshan came in, and some some children's entertainment came in, that used to happen in the mornings. So I don't know, Yamaya. I don't know, about that, and that is something that by the time we've come to this time, so actually, a theatre like Palace, where Javeed and Fareed and all go, and where Farooq is a manager, there was an interim period before they came to the Bhojpuri formula, where in order to survive, they actually ran soft porn or whatever through the day, okay, for working class, largely men around that area. But when it comes to an interview, they won't talk about it. So this is the other thing. So I actually, that's one of those things I couldn't get on film, to talk about what happened in that interim period and how did you survive before, after Hum Aapke Hain Kaun and the lull that happens before Bhojpuri cinema comes in and helps them sustain themselves. So it's something that I actually don't have an answer to.
It was a really amazing film. I cannot tell you the array of emotions it invoked in me. So I'm obviously from Gen Z, and I've always watched films on TV and my tablet, and most recently like my phones and everything. Because we did not have cinema at our place, because I belong to a place where radical Islamicization stopped cinema. So I think in recent years, we've reversed it. So cinemas were converted into, I think, hospitals and more useful things, which they call them. Now I think there are one or two cinema halls that have been constructed, and some people go there. Many people are still stigmatized and yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to say that I think my place is going back to the cinema ages now, in this age. My question is that I think I made a documentary film, but it was a short film about a ubiquitous subject that you said it is actually tough. I've made a film on bakers. In my place, there's like traditional bakers, which is a ubiquitous institution. And
Right.
it was very tough to script it actually, and even tough to edit it. And it was a short film, so uh, it was not that hard. But your feature film is actually 63 minutes long. So my question is about your scripting process and obviously the editing process. How did you do it, and obviously it must have evolved on over time. But what was the larger frame like? What was the timeline like? That is my question.
Oh, the timeline was terrible. Um, I took 10 years to finish this film, of which I think the last almost 6, 8 months we edited, because there was a lot of material and it was all pulling in many different directions. So, and the other thing was that while I wanted to talk, and the focus of this discussion has largely been about single screens, I also wanted to talk about how audiences in the theater are not divorced from audiences outside, right? And with tensions outside in society. So by the end, what you're seeing of what happens with Kashmir Files, or even let's say with the national anthem story, those are happening in multiplexes, right? Of somebody getting beaten up because they don't get up, etc. So I sort of had the arc of where I knew I wanted to go, because I wanted to stay inside the theater and look at its relationship with the outside world. So what is the context from where somebody comes, and the moment I put the theater in the middle of the actual storytelling, I think that then we found a way to tell the story. Because otherwise I had actually had a cut which I threw away completely, which went into Javeed's home, went into the background of the family, fascinating, but actually could never come back into the theater, because then it seemed, it didn't work together with the other material. So I think that that's one of the things to see, is that what is essentially what you're trying to talk about, right? And how do you anchor that as the central space, in this case physical space, otherwise the central core narrative, which you may weave around, go in, come out, go away to breathe, come out, but you keep coming, you tie it around that central. I mean, that central thing is holding the threads, and then it's like a web, which sometimes it pulls out, then it comes back, and that kind of dynamism, I think, is what Niharika and I were working towards, you know um, because there was a lot of material. It had been shot over a long period of time with slightly different frames of mind. So I think that was the thing. So there were a lot of, we really had to figure out how they were going to speak to each other over time, and then how they were going to speak to what was actually happening outside while we were editing the film. Yeah. So I don't know whether that helps answer your question, but yeah, something in that direction.